The closet was filled with so many gorgeous, sparkly dresses that it was hard to know where to look. With Ayla growing so quickly, it was obvious that most of those clothes would end up in the trash after just a few wears. Laura felt pity for those expensive clothes, and also guilt, so she frowned and turned her head towards the display case where the jewelry was displayed. What do I take? What could he bring to make things even more difficult for Lisa? Laura stroked her chin and smiled mischievously. And, among the valuable trinkets, he took out some of the most expensive ones and put them in the cloth bag he had prepared. If she really wanted to steal, she would have just stolen some things to blend in, but now her goal was to make things worse and get Lisa out of the way, so there was no need to be careful. Laura, after picking up the jewelry and returning to the hallway, quickly headed to Lisa's room. Luckily, his room was not far from Laura's. This was because they were both Ayla's maids. I hope the door isn't closed. Laura turned the knob nervously. Most of the mansion's employees used to leave the doors unlocked. Unless they had something special to hide, like Laura, there was no need to close them. Of course, even if it was locked, he could still sneak in with the skill he had learned from his Uncle Cloud. But it would be better not to leave a trace of the intrusion. If there was any trace of the open door, it could serve as proof of Lisa's innocence. And luckily, Lisa wasn't closing the door. Laura scoffed at Lisa's naivety and cautiously entered the room. If she were so complacent, wouldn't they accuse her of being a thief and throw her out? It's as if his head were a flower garden. She thinks everyone appreciates her. He snorted and removed the cloth bag containing the jewelry from his chest. Now it was time to think about where to hide them. But then... Stop, Laura Spencer. Look. Oh really? I saw it. Laura came out of the princess's closet and snuck in here. Lisa's door burst open, and a maid and two gentlemen, scolding her, ran into the room. What is this? Laura's hair seemed to turn white. Clearly, upon stealing the jewelry and entering this room, he checked several times to make sure no one was around. But how did they catch her? And how did they catch her like this, red-handed, with no excuses or lies to back it up? Let me check that pocket for a moment. The knights advanced menacingly and snatched the bag from Laura's hands. And of course, it was full of Ayla's jewelry, the same one she had just stolen. This is pure evil. Not only did you steal the princess's jewels, but now you are trying to touch the young Lady Hersig's belongings. The knight spoke harshly. He seemed to have mistaken his entry into the room as an attempt to steal Lisa's belongings. Laura was about to retort, wondering how much she could steal from the daughter of the notoriously poor Baron Hersig's family, but in that brief moment, she suddenly stopped talking. It was a matter of weighing whether it would be better to try to frame Lisa or simply be accused of being a thief. Idiot, whatever it is, I'm finished. What will happen to me if my mother finds out? Laura wanted to hit her head. She was so stupid that she couldn't even handle something like that, and they caught her. If she was caught stealing from her master, she would not only be thrown out of the mansion, but she would also be taken to the authorities for investigation and possibly even imprisoned. So, if she was caught hiding her identity and it was revealed that she was a descendant of a traitorous family. While these thoughts continued, Laura even thought that it would be better to run away and try to contact her uncle. I wish I could escape. There were already two well-trained knights in that room, and even if she managed to escape, she would be caught and would not be able to leave the mansion grounds. What should I do? Please, someone save me. Laura was terrified, with tears in her eyes. In that place where enemies surrounded her on all sides, she had no one on her side. Now it seemed that only destruction was left for him. First, I must inform His Excellency the Duke. I must also return the jewels to the princess. And then, the sound of two knights arguing suddenly reached their ears. Suddenly, Laura became lucid. There was one person at her side who had the power to help her, Ayla. The moment he realized that, a glimmer of hope seemed to return to a future that seemed completely doomed. No matter how bad that woman has been lately, she won't leave me, will she? Laura gritted her teeth as the knights dragged her away. They say there is a hole to get out of even if the sky falls. Maybe she had a chance at salvation too. A moment later, Laura was dragged before Roderick and Ophelia. Laura, is what I heard true? That you stole Ayla's jewelry? Roderick asked in an angry voice. In fact, Laura had been distrustful of Roderick for some time. He thought he was a fool, blind to the fact that Ayla had come to take his life, and that she had blindly trusted him. But the Roderick who now looked at her with piercing eyes was different from the foolishly kind man she knew. Although she had not raised her voice or made any threatening gesture, Laura, overcome with fear, began to stutter. That's not. It was then that Laura, kneeling before Roderick, murmured in fear. Laura. What's happening? Ayla and Lisa went to see her, after hearing the news. That's what I mean, miss. The maid who had reported Laura approached Ayla and explained the situation to her in detail. Lisa turned pale when she heard the story. I couldn't believe that Laura, who had said she was sick and wanted to rest, had done something like that. Not only did you steal your master's jewelry, but you were even trying to steal your partner's belongings. No, Your Excellency. He has no reason to steal. There must be some misunderstanding. Lisa intervened, defending Laura with a puzzled expression. His intentions were pure, but his intervention only served to embarrass her even more. If she wasn't trying to steal, why would that girl come into Lisa's room? Could it be that he was trying to frame her for theft? Ophelia, who had been watching silently, intervened and said, What? How could someone do something so cruel to someone as kind as Miss Lisa? The anonymous maid who had been at Ayla's side covered her mouth in an exaggerated, dramatic gesture and screamed. His expression was one of utter unforgiveness. No, I. Laura felt even more cornered and trembled. He felt like a mouse surrounded by cats. If that was really your intention, then it is unforgivable. You should accept the punishment for falsely accusing an innocent person. Roderick opened his mouth as if he were about to drag Laura to the authorities. Father, wait a moment. At that moment, Ayla silently opened her mouth. It was like a lifeline that had been offered to Laura. Yes, Ayla. Forward. If Laura did something like that, there must be a reason. Tell me why. Ayla, expecting Laura to defend herself by saying it couldn't be true, gave her a chance to speak calmly. What was the point of giving a reason in this situation? Yes, Laura. Tell me. Why did you do that? Ophelia, who had heard her daughter's words, asked with a cold voice, different from the usual kindness. Laura, who had hoped that Ophelia, who had always been so kind to her, would take her side, was disappointed. I'm sorry. Because you, madam, and everyone else appreciates and treats Miss Lisa so well, I felt like my place was getting smaller and smaller. I was so scared. Please don't kick me out. Laura confessed to the crime with a tearful voice. He felt it would be better to admit everything and appeal to his emotions to reduce his punishment. He thought maybe that's why Ayla allowed him to tell her his motivation. That can't be. Lisa covered her mouth, apparently surprised by Laura's attempt to slander her. His kind eyes seemed to be about to burst into tears. Father, mother. Laura certainly committed a crime, but she has been so kind to me all this time. Please don't kick her out. It's partly my fault for not being nice to her that Laura feels so threatened, right? Ayla begged her furious parents to stop her. Laura finally felt a little relieved when she saw him. A ray of hope emerged, maybe they wouldn't throw her out of the mansion. Ayla. Please, father. Let me beg you. When Roderick sounded embarrassed by his daughter's request, Ayla once again begged for mercy in a desperate voice. If you say so. But there is Lisa, the victim, so wouldn't it be ridiculous for me to forgive her on my own? If Lisa allows it, I will not impose any legal punishment. And as punishment, I'm thinking about making Laura do the housework. Is that okay with you, Lisa? I